Hello, everybody. We're back today on, December 25th or 25th of December, 2021. It is a Sabbath. And I'm joined here with Michael, and we are all the way on the tippy top of the script in session 83 today. Michael, you don't have a title. I wonder what you want to title it, Michael. Science fiction? Oh, interesting title, Michael. Welcome.
Hello, Brett. Hello, dear listeners. Welcome out there. This is so far the last script I have prepared. It's 154 pages, mainly pictures. But nevertheless, at the moment, I'm through with the Science is the New Religion because I instantly thought that, okay, might be 100 sessions. At the moment, we will stop with 83 because I have to prepare something else for the future, which has also been related to science. But maybe this is just a thing in between. So I came up with the idea to let it end with science fiction. Yeah, what's science fiction, actually? Oh, by the way, it's the 25th of December, and many people mistake this very special day. And it's very interesting that the real heretics in this world don't regard this as a Sabbath. Okay, but okay, then let's move on into the science fiction script. In the first
Timothy.
In the First Timothy, yes.
Chapter 6, verse 20. I can read it, Michael, if you like. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with thee. Amen.
Yeah, interesting enough so it has something to do with error concerning the faith. So could it be that the wrong science has to do with the lack of faith? And therefore, the question arises for me, what's the purpose of science fiction, actually? Now, if we go into science, for example, it's mostly been introduced as the Greek word gnosis. For example, here in 1 Timothy 6:20, it's in gnosis. Of course, it is in Greek. Yeah, that's of course. So in Daniel, of course, it is a Hebrew word and not a Greek word. So gnosis means just knowledge or science. Yeah, so their knowledge without faith. Actually, maybe that's a more simple way to look at it, Brett. Knowledge without faith. So what do they know? And what is science fiction, actually? Fiction, of course, is a fictional event, is a story, a textbook, an essay. So science fiction, something was imagined by some author who wrote a book or a poem or made a movie or audio book. What else? Yeah, about some things in the future. Yeah, maybe. And something has to do with science. And it's interesting enough, every time I go into science fiction, God is missing. So science fiction in the Etymology online is being explained as abbreviated form sci-fi from 1955, first attested in advertisements for Air Wonder Stories magazine. Earlier in the same sense was scientific fiction. That doesn't explain where fiction is come. I think we have to go down to the roots of it all. So let's hear it for etymology. So what is fiction? That which is invented or imagined in the mind. So this is a thought, first of all. Yeah. So science means the knowledge without faith in the worldly sense. Then it is also the fiction means an imagined idea in the mind of knowledge without God. So how can the future be equipped without God? How can we make it? How can we develop? Yeah, maybe you find it a little bit more exaggerated here. I don't know, but it just means to shape, to form out of clay. Interesting, huh? To form out of clay. There you got already the biblical reference. Form out of clay. Where is in the Bible clay mentioned? Iron not mixed with clay. Yeah, this is the feet of the metalman image, if I remember correctly. So very interesting. So what is my computer doing? Okay, air wonder stories. Interesting, air wonder stories. I had not the time to finish the decent script at the moment, so I have to improvise a bit. I apologize for that. Air wonder script. It's an early science fiction magazine, 1929 to 1955. Is that familiar to you, Brett?
No, other than it's just another ideological kind of tendency that the world goes through in cycles. You can look up. What's the term? It is called literary movement, Michael. And yeah, I suspect these things have to do with Satan, and he likes to change the definitions of words through different ideologies and things like that. So no surprise.
Yeah. So let's go down to the path, actually. Yeah, fiction means it's a fabrication. Yeah, a fabrication of knowledge, mostly without God, at least without the biblical God. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that it is. Meaning, prose works not dramatic of the imaginations of the 1590s, first often including plays and poems. The legal sense, fiction of law, is from 5080. A writer of fiction could be a fictionist. The related Latin words included the literal notion worked by hand, as well as the figurative senses of, quote, unquote, invented in the mind, artificial, not natural. And yes, it's very interesting because the word is speaking about artificial intelligence. No? So, Latin fictilis, made of clay, earthen, fictor, molder, sculptor. But also of Ulysses as master of deceit. Huh? That's a find, I think. Master of deceit. Yeah, there you go again with Satan, I think. Yeah. So, fact or fiction? The abbreviation shortened to sci-fi or SF is a genre of speculative fiction that typically deals with imaginative and futuristic concepts such as advanced science and technology, space exploration, time travel, parallel universes, and extraterrestrial life. And you got everything together with
parallel Catholicism, Michael. Parallel universes, parallel Catholicism.
It has been called the literature of ideas and often explores the potential consequences of scientific, social, and technology innovations. Yeah, usually it is like Orwell 1984 or Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. Science fiction, whose roots go back to ancient times, is related to fantasy, horror, superhero fiction, and contains many subgenres. Its exact definition has long been disputed among authors, critics, scholars, and readers. Science fiction literature, film, television, and other media have become popular and influential over much of the world. Besides providing entertainment, it can also criticize present-day society and is often said to inspire, quote-unquote, a sense of wonder. Science fiction had its beginnings in ancient times, when the line between myth and fact was blurred. Yeah? So fact is fiction, or fiction has become fact. My thinking started at that point here when I said, okay, might it be that they put up some things and they say, oh, this is just fiction, and but they planned it to put it in the minds of the people as a fact. Yeah, you see, because it's here the thin line or the line between myth and fact was blurred, and maybe that's also the intention of these people. Yeah, blinding you by science actually means that they're putting something in your mind with whom you or from whom you believe to be true. Yeah, for example, the moon landings and all the other things. Yeah, people believe it is true because they've seen it on television. Extraterrestrial life forms, for example. Yeah, you know that when you look upon the Bible, there are no extraterrestrial life forms, at least not equipped with a human body. And I know there is debate out of it, but you see that it's not in the Bible. No? Not speaking of any apocrypha here, not mixing everything up. Written during the scientific revolution and the age of enlightenment that we are speaking about for numerous amount of sessions, Johannes Kepler's Somnium 1634, Francis Bacon, New Atlantis, Athanasius Kircher, Itinerarium Ecstaticum. You see that this is a Jesuit here. This is a Jesuit. The other two are hidden Jesuits, where Johannes Kepler, you know, Tycho Brahe and all the... Who cur bono was Johannes Kepler? At Somnium, we have talked about that he was thinking, imagining, a fictional journey to the moon. Yeah, so if you like to say so, that he was some of the fathers of the moon, so-called landings or the moon explorations, that was Johannes Kepler. Usually it is not attributed to him because people think it is also all about the NASA and all about the rocket science, but it's actually the thinking or the beginning, one of the beginnings of the official beginnings in the post-Reformation time was from Johannes Kepler. Yeah, then you got the Cyrano de Bergerac, Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travel, you know, the giant and the dwarfs, and other people, and Isaac Asimov and Carl Sagan. Isaac Asimov is the guy with I, Robot, yeah, Alan Parsons Project, or Will Smith, I, Robot. So it's about robots, and Isaac Asimov is to be known that he's the absolute non-believer. And Carl Sagan, who is absolutely pushing the evolution agenda, considered Somnium the first science fiction story, speaking about Johannes Kepler at the moment. It depicts the journey to the moon and how the Earth's motion is seen from there. And now you know the intentions, or especially the mindset or the thinking of Mr. Johannes Kepler. Yeah, no wonder that he's been promoting the heliocentric system, because you can read it in his fictional story Somnium. So that fiction became later for many people truth. Yeah. First of all, about the propaganda, so to speak, about the heliocentric universe, and second of all, with the NASA so-called mission from the Jesuits, mission to the moon. Yeah, so that is one prime example, I think, from science fiction becoming a popular myth or becoming a popular truth, which is not a truth. It is not the Earth which is moving, and also people did not go to the moon. But that is just my result of it. Everybody is free to have his own opinion, of course. But that's, for me, is a prime example that it is very interesting to think about the thing that just a novel became so-called truth. And especially if you look upon the word. Where is my translator when I need him? So, Somnium. Yeah, it's a dream. It's not a truth, it's a dream. Yeah? Somnium, Kepler's story, not Kepler, Kepler. Yeah. The imperial mathematician. Kepler's Somnium, the dream. Johannes Kepler. Kepler's dream. So that became truth for the majority of people. They absolutely think that the Earth is spinning and that the NASA was putting at least a couple of people onto the moon. So that fiction became fact in the mind of the people. Not absolute fact and no truth at all, but it became fact. Following the 17th century development of the novel as a literary form, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, 1818, and The Last Man helped define the form of the science fiction novel. Brian Aldiss has argued that Frankenstein was the first work of science fiction. Yeah, it's about creating a man with the current and with lightning like Zeus and Satan, who was depicted as a lightning fall from the sky. So that if I go into Frankenstein, it's a creation. Somebody tried to be a creator, to be creative. Yeah. You see what it all comes down from. It has to be with science, and it has to be with help of electricity and with the lightning. Now, every time you look at the Frankenstein movie, it is depicted there is a lightning striking the building, the laboratorium. Interesting, I think. Frankenstein, creation, lightning. Yeah. It's you see how it resembles Luke 10:18. I saw Satan fell like a lightning from sky. Interesting. It's not only that the lightning is very powerful because it contains a high amount of current, yeah, but also the resemblance to the Bible. Edgar Allan Poe wrote several stories considered to be science fiction, including The Unparalleled Adventure of One's Fall, which featured a trip to the moon. Jules Verne was noted for his attention to detail and scientific accuracy. You see, he was one of the inspiration of Werner von Braun at the NASA, especially in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, etc., and some other people too. H.G. Wells, also a high-ranking member of a certain order. He was having The Invisible Man, The War of the Worlds, which was an audio play which frightened many American people in the 1930s, and they went out in the streets to look upon the Martian invasion. Yeah, his science about space travel, satellite visions, military tanks, nuclear weapons. You see that some of them became so-called truth. Nuclear weapons, satellite television, space travel, military tanks. He predicted that. So that means, in my humble opinion, that people have a little bit foreknowledge on things to come. And also they are being used to put it into a Hollywood context, that the people that really think, oh yeah, this is only fiction. And when it becomes truth, they are not that scared or not that frightened, not that overwhelmed about things, but they just take it as it is. So you said that, okay, yeah, that started as a science fiction, but now it is becoming truth. And that we have the problem we have with many things. And I came up with the idea that it is mainly about the creation of man, of mankind, when you think about the terms of Frankenstein once again, which was then being handed over to the famous director Fritz Lang in Germany. Oh, Mutter, nicht. Mach's doch jetzt habe ich das alles wieder auf der Aufnahme drauf. Raschel alles hier. Lass es sein, danke, aber lass es sein. It's every time the same. Yeah, she only wanted to help, and then she's stumbling upon a shoe which is standing here, and then she's making that noise, and I have to cut it out, and so it would have been better if she did nothing. But you see, I will always be her little boy.
Yeah.
I need help badly. I will not make it. So where was I? And this idea of Frankenstein was being taken over by the famous German director Fritz Lang in Metropolis when they created the so-called Robot Man Maria, of course, Maria. And Maria was ordained to be in that version of the movie as the savior.
Wait a second, Michael. They named this character Maria?
Yes.
I can't help but laugh.
Yeah, and later on she became that's a religious movie. You see that on the satanic pentagram here, right. Yeah, which happens to be the very pentagram that the Sikel Salomonis was being used by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe in his Faust tragedy. It's just for a female so-called savior of the workers of the underworld who are living under the earth or working under the earth, and she's making speeches there. You see that is a church where Maria is making their speeches, and then out of a sudden the chief of Metropolis is in collaboration with the architect, with the sorcerer. And the sorcerer has created an artificial being, and this is called also Maria. And then she is equipped as the robot man, and then she's been equipped too with a skin, with a human skin, and takes the shape of that Maria to deceive the people, actually. And of course, the last sequence of the movie is in a church, a fight between good and evil, and all the things. You cannot make it up on yourself. Yeah, it's yeah. This is the inventor. Of course, he's a lunatic. And of course, he's creating his so-called fake Maria, his machine man, with the help of electricity and lightning. Yeah, of course. And up to this very day, no one knows exactly how Fritz Lang did that. So there's very much symbolical things in that. Yeah, what I would like to point out is that she's called Maria, and also in that very thing, it's also about that Maria is then deceiving the people, and she's dressed like the whore of Babylon. So it has all the context of the Bible here. It has all the context of the Bible here. Yeah, it's a religious movie. Yeah, a Catholic movie, of course, huh? Seven Deadly Sins. It's a Catholic movie. It's Catholic propaganda once again. It's Catholic propaganda to the core. Yeah, but Maria is the hero of that movie. Yeah, you cannot make it up. You cannot make that up. But let's stop that here. Metropolis was the first feature-length science fiction film. It was not well received in its time. Now it's been considered a great and influential film. It is actually propaganda for the Catholic Church because Maria is the savior of the world. Once again. 1954, Godzilla. Yeah, what else? A radioactive monster or dinosaur, which never existed. Godzilla. You see there is God in it. Yeah? Was the beginning of Japanese science fiction. Then 2001, of course, Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes, etc. Star Wars, yeah, so that is the Wars of the Angels, yeah, the stars, Star Wars movie. And then it comes down, of course, with artificial heroes, for example, Wall-E, Peter Gabriel once again, or Short Circuit and E.T., not to forget E.T., Alien, yeah, etc. In Blade Runner also these people are not merely human, etc., etc. Television also, there are so many things which I don't want to go into. Doctor Who, maybe one of the most prominent. Star Trek, yeah. So that miniseries V stands for the Roman numerals 5 or for the Horns of Satan. Stargate, Babylon 5, social influence. It found that people who read or prefer science fiction may think about to relate to science differently than other people. They also tend to support the space program, the idea of contacting extraterrestrial civilizations. And that, I think, Brad, that is the purpose of all the history or of all the industry of Hollywood, etc. So that the people are being prepared. Oh yeah, extraterrestrials will be coming, space travel will be possible, etc., etc. So this is just the programming of people. Like Star Trek, yeah, it's 2200 and now we are on a mission to another galaxy, and so yeah, that's also deceiving here, deceiving the people. Alien, ET means also the extraterrestrial. Yeah, it's like the same as Michelangelo's drawing, which we pointed out in the last session. Or this, a close encounter of the third kind. Yeah. What is the third kind? Yeah, male, female, and a hybrid, or what? Yeah, and so this has been presented as the alien, the Steven Spielberg way. Yeah, so that people think, oh yeah, they are smart, not animals, but extraterrestrials, and they will provide us with science or knowledge or so. Huh? Yeah. And people would like to make contact with entities. That we spoke about that in the Lucifer session, and that's just the follow-up of Aleister Crowley's demon Yeah, lamb, etc. So once again, this is science falsely so called. Yeah, this is fiction. But many of the presented truths, like Albert Einstein and all the other guys, are fiction too. So they're blinding us with science by the use of big words and complex explanations. Yeah, to create something, at least when it is in the virtual reality. Yeah, they can create anything. That's maybe all the reason why Klaus Schwab said in 2030 you will own nothing but will be happy, because then you can have anything in your so-called virtual reality. You just put your glasses up and yeah, everybody has got a Lamborghini, much jewelry, and it can be anything everywhere you like, but it's just the virtual reality. It's nothing else to do with truth or so. Yeah, and so nowadays God is incompetent of saving mankind. Yeah, because he has to wear a glove. Yeah, so Terminator, Jurassic Park, Matrix, all these science fiction movies serve a purpose into preparing mankind that there will be some transhumanism and some kind of development into the future, which will not be bright for people who have a sense of emotion and morality and ethics. But you see, the standards are being pushed away nowadays, even from the Pope, especially from the Pope.
Yeah, isn't that true? Isn't that true, Michael, with all the talk about the old Latin Mass being done away with, and what else are they pushing around? Of course, now you gotta get your vaccine. I said the word. Oh, I've been banned from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have to be. You better watch it. Yeah. Yeah, Big Brother is coming to get you.
Yeah. Well, I think they're pulling up now, Michael. I might have to cut it short. Just kidding.
Yeah. You see that when people are so fan-based that they even have a birthplate and or birthplace and funerals and what else to Mr. Captain Kirk of the Star Trek. Ow. This is a religion nowadays. Yeah. And this is a very problem, because the people who are setting all the so-called standards, they have big money, they have money big time, and they want to shape mankind into believing that the future can only be bright if you trust science as a religion. So this German poster shows you a breastfeeding mom with the underline of future or climate killer. Yeah, so are babies, or sorry, not babies, but youngborns, are they the future or a climate killer? You see, that is, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, but they get away with that because the man has to be seen as an enemy, at least from the viewpoint of Satan. But people see other people nowadays, with all the pandemic stuff going on, they see them as an enemy, a potential threat, even without a weapon. Yeah, but man himself, or a small newborn. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you go down the road that we cannot publish it on YouTube anymore, you see that there are many numerous hints, also very interesting hints that people have warned the government into believing that everything has been done for the good of mankind. But all these pharmaceutical companies, they're doing it for themselves and not for mankind. And so this is a letter from the Chas M. Higgins to the President of the United States about the great danger of these shots to human health and life. This is about the time of the First World War. Yeah, the penal prohibition of General V as being now more dangerous than natural smallpox. Yeah, that's a problem, but no one is aware of these letters and the things because they are being pushed away by the governments and by the big industry. Our friend Daryl Eberhard has posted links on the 21st of April. That's how old the script is actually. Books about VP and related topics. Yeah, and I will show them to you, and you can pause the video if you like to make some notes. But I don't talk about that because otherwise it will be very hard to publish it. Yeah, how shall you get to the truth if you're not allowed to study things? So this problem is way more older than 100 years. It's now not recent. It had not come up in 2020. And there it was so nice to incorporate also the ISBN number so you can order the books directly without looking for them. But it's about money big time. Never again in mankind you facing so much people with depression, so much people with a lack of remembrance. What is it called? Alzheimer.
Sure.
Yeah, all the things. Cancer. These are all civilization diseases. They do not come by accident, but many of the things are being so because of shots and of poor food quality or genetic engineered food, which is all okay. You see that they care about your health, but they don't care about the food that you're eating and the things that you are drinking. So it's not funny anymore. Yeah? People are very naive to follow any officials without using their brains. Yeah, that was the summation from Daryl, and now coming up some interesting thoughts about the subject. That has been said that this fiction has become so-called, how to say that this fiction has become. Oh, my! I have to concentrate more. Yeah, in German it is postfaktische Zeit. It's post facts. Yeah, so the facts are not interesting anymore. It is just about that the people think that it's true, but it is not true. And so it has nothing to do with facts, but these are things, myth becoming facts. So it is fiction, but people believe in that fiction as reality. Yeah. And so a German philosopher called Gunnar Kaiser, who I'm very sorry for that he doesn't believe in God or so, he says the last remained authority is science. Yeah, and so people think about science can answer all their questions, but we know that it's just gnosis. Is it just knowledge without God? And so without God, nothing is real knowledge. That's the problem. And there is some Mr. G who cares about the elderly. And I have catch that phrase here with the subtitle. That's called the death panel. Yeah, he's calling about the death panel in that video here, 1 minute 34. A form of Inquisition, huh? Inquisition took place not only in Spain, but they are wearing the black and red, the colors of Satanism, and you're not supposed to kill anybody in the commandments of God. And when Jesus Christ ordains that you have to love even your enemies, so where's then room to kill? Nowhere. Yeah. Yeah. You see, these are some videos who are at this moment up on YouTube. Yeah. Who is BG? To reduce fertility, and more research is required if a solution is to be found there. You know, huh? This is the climate killer is called young children are being called climate killers, maybe. Yeah. So that is our not so bright future. It's a very interesting video. Yeah, to have implantable contraceptives which can be remotely being shut on or off. Remotely.
Eugenics.
Yeah, it's all about that. Yeah, science playing God. Science deciding if you are allowed to have a child or not. And if so, what kind of a child? If it has been suitable to the society or not. That's a not so bright future. To create an implantable birth control device. That's part of the video. It's not my guess. Dissolvable microneedles that deliver patterns of near-infrared light emitting. Luciferase means that. That means luciferase. For example, I know that luciferase. Yeah, extreme sensitive reagent for rapid quantization of firefly luciferase. Lucifer, once again, in English. Luciferase is a generic term for the class of oxidative enzymes that produce bioluminescence and as enlightenment, and is often distinguished from a photoprotein. The name was first used by Raphael Dubois, who invents the words luciferin and luciferase for the substrate and enzyme respectively. Both words are derived from the Latin words lucifer, meaning light bearer, which in turn is derived from the Latin words for light and to bring or carry. Ha! How convenient, huh? Of course, if you are a scientist and have never studied the Bible, then you think, oh yeah, it's just a fancy Latin name. But luciferases are widely used in biotechnology, bioluminescence, imaging microscopy, and reporter genes, and for many the same applications have fluorescent proteins. However, unlike these proteins, luciferases do not require an external light source, but do require addition of luciferin, the consumable substrate. So that is luciferin, huh? In your body. Lucifer, not in disguise, but Lucifer in your body. Light-emitting microparticles to the skin. But you cannot fake anything, you have to wear that, and you can then be identified. Yeah? Like a humanoid, because there is something artificial being put into you, into your skin, in your body. I never talked about that being a nice session. Yeah, look upon that video. You have got here the time codes, 1 hour, 8 minutes, 45. Fluorescent quantum dot tags are delivered along with the... I just saved it. Yeah, fluorescent quantum dots tags are delivered along with the V. Look at that video. Eventually, we will have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or has been tested recently, or when we have a V who has received it. That's a documentary before the V were available. You see that this BG character, this Mr. Gates, of course, is a very rich guy. And he became rich in getting him the QDOS software, quick and dirty operating system, from Mr. Tim Patterson, a worker at Seattle Computers. And then he sold the rights for $56,000 to Mr. Gates and Mr. Allen, who then licensed it, and their first major client, IBM, as their PC DOS, disk operation system, I think it is. Or MS-DOS, Microsoft operation system. And even that is not an invention of Mr. Gates. So in the near future, some people think and make a prophecy that it will be very hard to have the development which is used to. There is a so-called Moore's law, which says that the number of transistors incorporated in a chip will approximately double every 24 months. But now people say that it has reached its limit, because it's already so tiny, like an atom. So I cannot believe it, because I'm not in that genre. Yeah, but interesting enough, the most powerful computers are not the digital computers that you are aware of, but people think about this has something to do with waves. And it's very interesting, because if you think about that, the formula of Einstein was E equals mass by speed, or mass multiplied by speed. It is debatable if light really is a source or an energy, has a mass or something. You see, there are very different approaches what light actually is. If you go down the road to Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Yeah, so maybe these are just frequencies, these are just waves. Interesting. So maybe our so-called artificial intelligence is not so intelligent because it has to be prepared, it has to be programmed by people, and people do not function digitally. We are not speaking about 0 and 1, but we are speaking about analog, we are speaking about a human with emotion, with timbre, with a tone, with a voice, with a characterized sound pattern, etc. So the amplitude of the sine wave with its frequency has been used, for example, to make calculations about tides. All the things, so that maybe there is the actual approach of Einstein, not maybe, but almost certainly the approach of Einstein, etc., is totally false. So there is a certain science below or behind the desk which is not available for Wikipedia or so. So I'm absolutely convinced that the real science been made at military laboratories or CERN and all the things. That is where science really takes off. The dark science or the dark arts really take off in these labs, which you don't have any access to and which is not really reported in the general media. But it's all about people. Yeah, it's still the same video here, if you see, at 1 hour 41. It's about people. Fitter families for Georgia. A euphemism for eugenics that discredit pseudoscience. Yeah. On the outside, it appears reasonable, it appears nice, it's very positive, but on the inside, it's just eugenics. Some people in control decide what people they need and what people have the right to live. And it gets worse. This is the number or the page 4 of the book from Carey Mullis, the inventor of the PCR multiplication. It is not a test, it is a multiplication method for scientific research. And in this book here, he's been describing the DNA. And that book has called Dancing Naked in the Minefield. Mind, not mine, but mind, M-I-N-D. He says DNA is the big one. There are pressing reasons to want to read this molecule. Children are born with genetic defects, sometimes with tragic consequences like muscles that wither and die. Such things could be predicted and averted if you could read the DNA blueprints. Yeah, speaking of doctors being semi-gods. Then there are the looming but not so pressing reasons for knowing DNA, the ones that extend out to horizons mankind has not yet reached. Or maybe sky, huh? Sky high. Understanding the intricate mechanisms of our own genes will have more than just medical impact. It will be one of the long and tangled strands of our future as a growing civilization on the planet Earth. Having a detailed understanding of why children resemble parents will lead to genetic manipulating by those who may prefer alterations over strict duplication. That's called eugenic. Genetic engineering will not be a new endeavor. Evolution is and always has been a genetic engineer. Yeah, you know that he's absolutely on the track, on the road with Charles Darwin and the scientific approach of evolution and Big Bang, etc. It's just that people with eyes and minds and imagination, yeah, so science fiction, see things in distance and they get impatient. They will want control and they will want it soon and they will have it. And these are the people with the big players with the big money. The DNA molecules in our cells are our history, and they are the stuff of which our future will be crafted. All of the organs and of all the plants and animals of Earth and organs that have never been in the light of the moon or the sun will be ours to explore, to use and adapt to our needs. Our will be done on Earth as we sail off to the stars in heaven, or let us say to the fallen stars of heaven. This is genetically manipulating people, genetic manipulation, genetic engineering. Yeah, that's what he says here, genetic manipulating. And in an interview about Mr. Anthony Fauci, he says that those guys have got an agenda. Which is not what we want to have. And he's not the only one. You see, the deception is so worldwide that there is a renaissance of sorcery nowadays, that people will be blown away with numerous lies. Yeah, for example, Wicca tells you of the original and infinite energy form. No religion tries to tell you where that came from, was formed by the original spirit Diana. She is symbolized by the moon, and only silver jewelry will be worn by witches. And you can stop reading here because you know it's absolutely futile. Diana had a brother known as Lucifer, who has nothing to do with the devil or Satan. Sure, it's just a coincidence. Lucifer has also, of course, officially would never read that Lucifer has anything to do with the devil. Huh? Also, Lucifer Rase has nothing to do with the devil.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a Latin name. Yeah, Lucifer was allegedly symbolized by the sun. The myth goes that Diana fell madly in love with her brother Lucifer, who wanted no part of her, and I could read it on and on and on because I got that pamphlet here. This pamphlet is actually from the infamous White Witch of New York, Wally Elmlark, who was then being consulted by the late Mr. David Bowie. And I received that script from the United States, I think about 2 years ago or so. And I didn't know what to make use of it. And I thought, okay, Lucifer has nothing to do with the devil or Satan. No, of course. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. So that is, it's like in the last session with Lucifer's Trust, yeah, Brett. So that keeps us in the same line, huh? So these are the new 10 commandments, the so-called age of reason. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. You see that, Brett? What is that other than eugenics here?
That's right.
Yeah. Get rid of all these people who are not of use anymore. Yeah. Hold him under 500 million to be controlled. Yeah. And then have eugenics. Yeah. So that the state has access to people who are fit and who can work and do all the dirty work for the people in power. Yeah, and then destroy the language and have newspeak like Orwell, etc., etc.
Right.
Yeah. Tempered reason means the age of reason here. Protect people and nations with fair laws, and just you see who sets the rules, who are fair laws. Yeah, that also is of course only been the background here. Fair laws and just cause when it goes down to the path of the so-called 10 commandments. So these are their fair laws and just cause. Yeah, so in our biblical sense, these are unfair laws and unjust cause. Yeah, let's all nation rule internally, etc. About petty laws. Balance personal rights with social duties means that somebody says, oh, I got the individual right, then he's been overthrown by the society, says, no, society has a bigger, louder voice, and it's more important than the personal rights. Seeking harmony with the infinite. What's the infinite? Be not a cancer on the earth. If somebody is sick, then he's a threat to the community or the society. Leave room for nature. Yeah, so that means the last is the same as the first. If you have to leave room for nature, then you have to reduce the number of people. Great. These are great things for the upcoming generation, huh? Science falsely so-called. My. And it goes further, as you said, named and codified by Francis Galton, the cousin of Charles Darwin. Oh, interesting. Yeah. A negative eugenicist. Yeah. Who says, I'm quoting, there are times when saving a life is greater crime than taking one. So it will all be tossed around. It will all be tossed around. Bright is dark and dark is bright. Huh? War is peace, like 1984. Ignorance is strength. Yeah, on the side of the government, of course. Ignorant people would strengthen the government because no one questions the government or the authorities or the laws. But it gets even worse. A so-called Mr. George Bernard Shaw, who many of you may know as a famous poet, That's him. Irish playwright, critic, polemicist, and political activist, influence, etc. Major works as Man as Superman, Saint John, etc. The Nobel Prize in Literature. Then you know what to think about that. He's got a Nobel Prize like W.B. Yeats from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or Bob Dylan also got a Nobel Prize on literature. But it's a very dangerous path, because now listen what he's telling you. Bernard Shaw calling for people to be called before a state-appointed board to justify their existence or to be put to death. I'm not joking it. I have seen that very interview separately, not as part of that documentary here. Yeah. So everybody who has reached a certain age then had to be called before a state-appointed board to justify their existence. Otherwise, he will be put to death. Remember? Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Remember? Leave room for nature. Yeah, and that's called the death tribunal. That's what Mr. Gates also was quoting. So if you talk about, oh, that is a very interesting man, yeah, he is, but he's not a lover of mankind. These are all Satanists. They receive their prizes for their ideas, and they're putting ideas in the head of people that they say, okay, yeah, we got a much better atmosphere on the earth if we were not 7 billion, but 700 millions. The majority really is not aware of anything regarding to science or Einstein or Tesla or something. They don't care. They only care for themselves. So if it is him or her or somebody else, they will make absolutely sure that it's about their goal and not about anybody else's. So, yeah, so that we have to be aware of, that times were getting very dark and very hard. Yeah, because you see that we will be censored, many things will be censored. Yeah, if you got against these agendas, things will be censored. Yeah, and also this Microsoft company of Mr. Gates has a much longer experience in viruses or antiviruses. You see, it's very interesting that that Mr. Gates now, who has sold the company to have his foundation and is very engaged in having all this handing out and all this research about this medicine stuff, formerly was for decades into the business of computer things, and he could not have a proper working operation system, which was not his own, and which also was highly bombarded with viruses. So he didn't got that right, and now he's got another field with a virus. Very interesting. Yeah, so who doesn't know the truth is just dumb, but who knows the truth and calls themselves a lie, this guy is a criminal, says Bertolt Brecht. Yeah, because there are 2 human cell lines who are coming from tissue from aborted children. Yeah? And that's the same, and interesting enough, from Paracelsus when we are talking about the mumia, yeah, from the Egyptian mummies. Yeah, also things about that bodies into appropriate use for medicines. Mumia has not been accepted nowadays out of ethical reasons, but nobody has any problems if it is human cells from aborted children. What is that for a strange word? Yeah, this is a WI38 line. Yeah. Abortion was being made because the parents thought they had too many children. Yeah. All these eugenics. Yeah. Cannot imagine. You see that these are all these abortions. R stands for abortions. Fetus number 27, and 3 is the third sample of tissue. Isn't that a world? Isn't that a world when men are only considered to be an item? If somebody is not productive anymore, he has to get rid of. Yeah. The Papal Academy for Life. Yeah. That's it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. If you could go down to that path, you see that we will have 100 sessions about that, about medicine, only about medicine. Yeah, the Vatican says that in 2005 that parents have the moral duty to let their children be shot. Yeah, not with a gun, huh? From a doctor. Yeah, that's. If you really go down to that path, you see, you know that it had nothing to do with life, with the Creator, with God, or with love. Nothing to do with that. You just freeze the screen and then please do your own research.
Was that in German, Mike?
That was in France.
Oh, French, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I say they had 3 different batches. Yeah, you see that I cannot verify the information. I just show pictures at the moment. Has anything to do with science. Science. Science being called Madar in Hebrew. Knowledge, science, thought. That's the same as gnosis in Greek. Just to let you know. So I'm showing you pictures. You please freeze your screen and do your own research. Yeah, so that is a military operation in every field, global governments, aerospace, European Union, China, geopolitics, migration, everything has to do with that. This is a novel from a few years ago, The Very Strange Prophecy. You see, this is science fiction. I have forgotten, actually, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten where I got it from, but maybe I can insert here. The Eyes of Darkness from Cohen's. Dean Cohen's The Eyes of Darkness. You got it there. Okay. Yeah, it's all about modifying people. So these are a bunch of interesting videos. For example, an accusation of Sergio Bertolucci, the director for research in scientific computing at CERN, quote, something may come through dimensional doors at LHC, Large Hadron Collider, and quote, out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it, unquote. That's the reason, the most likable reason, or the most reasonable reason why they are putting that much effort in such these Large Hadron Collider. It's nothing to do with exploring the universe or something like that. Werner Heisenberg understood quite well what quantum physics implied for humanity. Inherent with his theoretical realm, populated by obtuse equations and pipe-smoking scientists, lies what I call the so-called Babylonian potential. Quote of Thomas Horn, on the path of the immortals. Of course, if you have that much money, you can do several transplants, and you want to have the best genes, you want to have the best organs. Wasn't it that what Carey Mullis was looking for on page 4 of his book, Dancing Naked in the Minefield? He spoke about organs. He spoke about genetic manipulation. Same author says, this is the secret knowledge, science, the secret science, secret knowledge, the scientific imperative, informed and driven by spiritual advisors, that the Bible cites as the key to opening a gateway for the gods. It is enti menaki baba alu, the opening of the Apsu, the doorway to hell. This is coming from a video, the Alberino analyzes CERN occult conspiracy. Yeah, what's the Bible here for a quote? I cannot go into that. That would require a Bible study, but I just hand over some information which I hope it will be valuable for you. Yeah, that's a quote of the director of CERN. There may be something through it, or we might sense something through it. So, or to the other side, you know, when comes that phrase. No? Yeah, that's very interesting. The scallop shell is symbolized as the key to obtaining the fountain of youth. The sacred science of unlocking the fountain of youth is not new, as it was written about around 2000 before Christ. There are so many interesting things. Yeah, so people would like to be like God. He would be like Jesus. Yes. Ye shall be as gods. It's always the same. So don't think about Mr. Carey Mullis as the lover of mankind. He was just having a technology which was of high use and highly demanded at the time. That's the reason why he was hand over the Nobel Prize. Yeah, with PCR, if you can do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It doesn't tell you that you're sick. Yeah. But the majority of people is in science fiction and believe everything that authorities tell them. Yeah, and also our friend lover and humanist of all times, Mr. Gates, says if we do really great jobs on the new V's, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 to 15%. Yeah, so less people are good in his. Okay, therefore he is some kind of age of reason believer, because he would be in line with the so-called 10 new commandments of the Georgia Guidestones. That is why no coincidence are that with the corona, the rhythm of the night video shows also a pentagram in the very first second. Yeah, some people know how you can be very successful. Yeah, the new Aeon. Satanic high priest Aleister Crowley claimed that his demon Iwas told him the year 2000 would mark the end of the superstition of Christianity and the beginning of the golden age when those possessing the will to dominate and conquer would ascend to godhood. Ye shall be as gods. It's always the same. A quote, well, I don't know from which book he took it. Those magicians who object to the use of blood have endeavored to replace it with incense, but the bloody sacrifice, though more dangerous, is more efficacious. And for nearly all purposes, human sacrifice is the best. And you can top that into saying that the younger the better. Now think about what abortion then means. It's a sacrifice. And people really intend, and they intend to be asleep because they don't want to face the truth, that there really is a Freemason connection to the Denver International Airport with all the horrendous images there, with even a time capsule not to be unlocked until 2094. Don't know if he got that much time. Yeah, but you see that this picture of the Denver airport picture. They are not nice. They are absolutely not nice. So what kind of a mindset is that when you have somebody who looks like a skeleton with a assault rifle and a sword and a dove and ruins and so many other things? Yeah. Denver Airport, yes. My. People really believe that it has absolutely, it's just artists. Yeah, they are artists. Yeah. Once again, showing just websites or headlines, you can start your research. Would fit the narrative of Age of Reason and Georgia Guidestones. Huh? Also that the symbol of the pentagram and hexagram nowadays is much more prominent than, let's say, 50 years ago. And the possibilities of science and deception of people are hilarious. If that is real here, that picture, something really weird happened at Denver Airport. Ah, okay. Freemason, anybody? Yeah, with a figure in the sky. Huh? So maybe that's Lucifer in disguise, or the second coming of Christ. What should be one of the possibility to get rid of Fidel Castro, if that source is correct from the last session, or second to last, I cannot remember. Yeah. Manly P. Hall, 33-degree Freemason. Once again, Manly P. Hall, a 33-degree Freemason, confessed that successful magicians were aided by demonic entities in his book, The Secret Teaching of All Ages. Yeah, ask Helena Petrova Blavatsky, ask Aleister Crowley, ask so many other people. This is a prediction here of the Deagle list, which is very infamous here in Europe, when it's predicted then a loss of 2/3 of our inhabitants in Germany. The bigger the arrow down, the greater the loss. The bigger the arrow up, the bigger the gain of population. Very interesting that the industrial countries are all losing and the third world countries are all winning. That would sum up to more equality, I think, Brett. Problem is that the Deagle list is somebody who was or is working for the Pentagon, so it could also be a psyop to scare people. But the manipulation of our genes in our body, which has been given by God, is a very, very famous one. Yeah, so the advent of polymerase chain reaction, PCR from Kelly Mollins, has greatly accelerated the progress of studies on the genomic structure of various organisms, etc., etc. So that was just the start. That was just the start. That was just the start. If you go down the Kabbalah, if you go down the Judaic mysteries, you have the Sephiroth tree, or the tree of Sephiroth. Don't know in English at the moment. And at the top, the first one is called the crown, or the corone. Coronis, corona, the crown, which is a symbol of the spirit of God. Which God? The God of this world. Because this is a pagan concept, of course. It's all a pagan concept. Keter means crown, also known as Keter, the topmost of the Sephiroth of the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. Since meaning is crown. You see? That the actual situation is more or less the crowning of the wound who has healed, and now the reigning of this satanic forces, so to speak. Yeah, you see that Lucifer's trust, Luciferase, you think that they're all coincidences, that they couldn't come up with another name? I don't think so. I don't think so. And also this Tree of Life is one of the main pillars of Satanism of Aleister Crowley. That's what his book Liber 777 is about. It's about numerology and it's about the tree of life, actually. I don't want to go into this nitty-gritty because I don't want to educate people in Satanism or in mysteries or so. Just want to point it out. In the Virgil's Eclogue, prophecy of the Cumerian Sibyl, it's been said that now the last age by Cumae's Sibyl sung has come and gone, and a majestic roll of circling centuries begin anew. Justice returns, old Saturn's reign. Saturn is the old name of Rome, or stir in abbreviation, with a new breed of men sent down from heaven. Aha, that would be an interesting start for a Bible session of Genesis 6. Yeah. These are all the people who are in touch or were in touch with demons. Helena Blavatsky. In that very video here, it's been said that there are patents in the United States of America who are applied under the name of animal. The term animal means all vertebrate and invertebrate species, including but not limited to man and other mammals, birds, fish, and shellfish. So man here has been seen in the same category as animal. You cannot make that stuff up, huh? You cannot make that stuff up. So everything which happens here has been said and put out as human clones, robots, artificial humans, etc. They came up with science fiction decades ago, is now being making a reality. Or at least being seen as possible by the average listener and follower of the news. Yeah, you see, I can skip it because it's just a repetition here. Sorry. And there is one very, very, very interesting thing which I found. It is on that website, screenonline.org.uk, a 30-minute theater session, season 3, with Donald Pleasence, who was very prominent for horror movies. An idealistic young television producer is approached by the representative of a clandestine agency offering an unusual job, creating the news before it happens. So predictive programming, like science fiction, once fiction, now becoming a generally common so-called fact.
And don't forget, Michael, and a refusal, it seems, is not an option, meaning you must believe what we say or else.
The live production method may be backward looking, but Desmond Llewellyn's script is prophetic in several aspects. Although its predicted date of the moon landing significantly overshoots the reality, it strikingly preempts subsequent conspiracy theories which suggested the event was faked in the film studio. It also prophesies the rise of politically powerful global media organizations and a surveillance culture that inspired many later conspiracy dramas. Once again, this little show is coming from 1968. It's unbelievable. They speak about a classified world news servant. You can exchange it also.
Right.
It's like CIA, huh?
Sure.
This is news benders. They're speaking about a surgical transmitter. One was fitted inside you. Yet think about the similarity in the explanations of Bill Gates when he came up with that small chips which has been inserted. And then the things with the luciferase. It just means light bearer. It's nothing to do with the devil and Satan. No, that's a hilarious lie. One was fitted inside you when you went into the Charing Cross Hospital. So that has a medical content here already. I should have told you about these surgical transmitters. There's enough of this stuff inside you at this moment to kill 6 people. There's a button we can press. So remote, that's the same thing that Bill Gates came upon. This is 1968. There's a button we can press. I'm sorry about the dramatics. Call these things the oral contraceptive, keeps them from talking too much. Yeah, and then the camera heads off to a fake moon landing. It's 1968.
Jeez.
It is 1968. But interesting.
Again, 33 years before 2001, Michael.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is about the similarity about the things that Bill Gates, or Who is Bill Gates documentary. I think that was very interesting similarity here. That's at least what was my first impression when I started to go into this. Yeah, and that's the same with the drug or contraceptive, etc., like Brave New World, out of Saxony. What do you think has been contained in that here? Doesn't look very healthy, huh? Out of Saxony, Brave New World revisited. And they're talking about the drug called Soma, who keeps the people down. So you obey, it's like they live. Yeah. So maybe there is also a drug in it. Yeah. Out of Saxony about the controls of the mass. He says, quote, I believe that scientific dictatorships will use of scientific means, which then can manipulate the people. We know much more about the function of the nervous system as in earlier times. Yeah, so how to deceive the people. The control of the masses in 1958. The control of the masses. And what is the television other than a drug? Keeps you in a mental state of unawareness. I'm sorry, that is in German here. The dictators of the past got their will through violence and threats of violence. Their main means of staying in power was terror. The scientific dictators of the future, that is, the type of dictators I am in my Brave New World, I don't think will use terrorism. These dictators will refrain from terrorism, not because they are more humane than the dictators of the past, but simply because the terrorism is relatively ineffective. I believe that scientific dictatorships will make use of various scientific means through which one can manipulate people. Today, we know more about the functioning of the nervous system than we did before. In the past, you know intuitively and from experience how best to manipulate people. Today, however, based on scientific research, we know how best to get people to love their enslavement. That was exactly what I wanted to emphasize in my Brave New World. I fear that with the scientific dictatorship of the future, developments will drive more and more in this direction. That is, a society will emerge in which the conditions are really inhumane, in which, however, the minds of the masses are manipulated in such a way that people not only accept these conditions, but actually love them. Conditions that they should actually reject and hate. But by manipulating the mind, they are made to love her, not to love it.
Well, you could be looking at it as her being the harlot of Revelation too.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's an absolutely contradiction to the Bible here in 1 Corinthians 3.
1 Corinthians 3, verse 16, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? That's a very interesting portion of Scripture. And 1 Corinthians 3:17, if any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if people will sign up to receive their so-called treatment, yeah, you see that the industry, the government, or who else is not in charge anymore. It's just the will of the people who are on the broad way leading to destruction, of course, because they are spoiling God's temple. Yeah, and don't be surprised if these world-famous scientists are putting out that they're just being researching the things on their entire life. This is Dr. Stanley Plotkin, who had to admit that they were using dozens of fetuses and all the things for their scientific research. Yeah, it's not 76 in that study, etc. Yeah, these are aborted children in the research of these shots. Yeah. And he says, this was very hilarious, that he says here the Catholic Church has issued a document. Without being asked about his religious beliefs, so he says the Catholic Church has issued a document in which has been stated that individuals who needs that shot shall take it, shall receive it. And he's referring explicitly, Brett, on the Catholic Church.
Isn't that interesting? That's an admission, isn't it?
Yeah, and now you don't have to compare it to Pope Francis, of course. They're all in line.
Yeah.
But without being said that, okay, what can you say about backing up? This is unethically. And said, no, the Catholic Church. Yeah, as if the Catholic Church would be the moral institute of the entire world. There are no Muslims anymore. There are no Jews anymore. There are no Hindus anymore, or what? Yeah, this is extremely interesting.
Well, it's Mystery Babylon, Michael.
Yeah,
Despite
the fact that stuttering here, that I think it implies that I am the individual who will go to hell.
Yeah, that's right.
That's his own admission.
Yep, I remember watching this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you see that this is a 9-hour. That is a 9-hour, almost 9-hour study here on that YouTube. Yeah, you see that. I don't know if I have forgotten it yet. This is Dr. Stanley. So then you have a reference here. Okay. Yeah, aluminium binding to cells, of course. What do you think where Alzheimer and all these people who have no remembrance anymore is coming from out of a sudden? Yeah, it's unbelievable. This is a transcript also available. Yeah. Plotkin says, yes, or the question is, and in this study was defined as learning disability, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, and autism spectrum disorder, correct? Plotkin replies, yes, but I will also point out the abstract says that it was a convenient sample of 666 children. And if you really think that is a coincidence, I can't help it. Yeah, so for the educated people or the people with an own mind to think, it's absolutely clear what it is. You see, you can look for these documents on your own. I'm just showing it to you that you can do your own research. That is also the purpose of the entire series. I cannot go into every nitty-gritty. That is just deception. Pharmakeia means sorcery, witchcraft. Spoil the temple of God, which is your body. Poisonous, drug, poisonous, potion, magic potion. Yeah, of course, that's soma. That's the drug what Aldous Huxley was also talking about. Yeah, pharmakeos means a preparer of drugs, a poisoner, a sorcerer. From pharmakon, a drug. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Paracelsus was naming his medicine as arcana. Arcana means secret. Yeah, and that's the same thing as was the Lucy's Trust is talking about, arcana. It's always the same words. Oh, Lucy's Trust. Sorry, they don't call it Lucifer Trust. Lucy's Trust, arcane. I think it was arcane schools. Yeah, Arcana Schule. Yeah, arcane school. Lucy's Trust. Yeah. A better way of life for everyone in the world, based on the fulfillment of the divine plan. The divine plan
to Satan. One? Yeah.
Yeah, you see which plan. This is Lucifer,
yeah,
Luciferian pentagram here.
Plan, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, it's so obvious, actually. Yeah. Yeah, that was Paracelsus, for example. You see that is Paracelsus used mumia. Yeah, you see that tissue and things, items of dead Egyptian mummies. And nowadays they are using tissue from aborted children. And that's allowed. That is pharmakeia. You see, you cannot criticize pharmakeia. Yeah. Labyrinthus medicorum. The errors of the doctors. Theophrastus Paracelsus. Yeah, just pointing it out. I'm really fine when this session is over, because it's stuff which is very hard to find and stuff which is hard to bear with and hard to live with, I think. So you see that Satanism has been promoted everywhere. Of course, these are artists, they get away with everything. The sensible provocateur on the 19th of April 2021 on one of the most prolific or most important news channels in Germany, News TV, Nachrichten TV. Yeah, everybody is a Satanist. Yeah, you see that when we got into John Dee and the Golden City, yeah, Alchemy Laboratorium, the ultimate quest of finding the Philosopher's Stone, and they are too trying to find the Philosopher's Stone today, which is a spiritual thing. The Maria robot, yeah, we talked about that. Yes, that's the satanic to the core. Replace humans or replace people with machines. Yeah, transhumane. Hybrids, what else? Yeah. All Maria, the machine scenes. Yeah, create artificial life. Yeah, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is promoting. It's much more better than a human. He's more powerful, he's more durable. Huh? He's less emotional, he's less humane. There is nothing divine in it. It's not the temple of God, it's the temple of the Antichrist. That once was science fiction, can be made reality soon.
You could say the temple of death, Michael.
Judgment Day. Oh, Judgment Day. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Judgment Day, actually. But not that Terminator Judgment Day, because to terminate means to kill, and killing is not allowed in the Bible. So who's the enemy? Us, we are standing here for the belief in Jesus Christ, the Bible, the Word of God, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. We are the enemy, people who are loving our enemies. My. Everything has been tossed around, no? Adam could also be an abbreviation or a similarity to atom. Yeah. Building the Perfect Beast, Illuminati's Black Gold Project. You can also look into that video. Yeah. Jesuit priest George Lemaitre invented the theory, or Jesuitically trained Catholic priest George Lemaitre, before somebody is accusing me of, I know that there are some people out there who try to put me to blame that I used the wrong word or so. Yeah. So it was a Jesuitically trained Catholic priest who came up with a theory called the Big Bang. What is that for kind of a priest who doesn't believe in the story of creation, Brett? I would say it's the Antichrist priest. Yeah. He proposed the theory of the expansion of the universe, widely misattributed to Edwin Hubble. He also proposed what became known as the Big Bang theory of the origin of the universe theory, which he called his hypothesis of the primeval atom or the cosmic egg. Yeah. And Pope Francis says, oh, he's absolutely in line. He said the Big Bang theory is compatible with the Catholic Church teaching. Yeah, because the Catholic Church teaching is not a Christian church. It's unbelievable where to look. I even have forgotten where I've thought this looked at. Agenda 2030, when you are having nothing left, there will be a surprise outbreak there, and no doubt in anybody's mind. So many people try to fear you, but as being Christians, you don't have to fear anything. He blind you with science. This is a price list for specimens. You can here buy organs, pancreas, thymus, kidneys, ears, eyes, with discount for a single eye. I got that from a certain video. When you really think about that, how our world has been run satanic. This is a price list of December 31st, 1999. So it has been to be expected that the prices have increased by much. Spinal cord, $325. Yeah. That's a satanic word, you see, that only power and money counts. All the kingdoms of the world in their glory. All will be thine if you bow down and worship me, said Satan in Luke 4 and Matthew 4 as well. This is Dr. Mary Getter, the president of the Medical Directors Council at Planned Parenthood Federation of America, which happened to be the very same company that the father of Bill Gates was accompanied to. She talked about the so-called Lamborghini, haggles again over baby parts prices. Viewers may remember her from footage in 2015, Dr. Mary Getter. Per specimen for Novagenics to take away. Did not employ anyone to an audit. Consulted protocol in 2010. Consulted other affiliates, etc. That is the very video called Planned Parenthood Lamborghini exec haggles again over baby part prices. There, when you can see the price list, you can see that they are debating actually about the price and what do you please hand over your quote for these organs of little children. And she's making a fortune with it and talking about then buying a Lamborghini. So that is all these people are really interested in. Has nothing to do with serve people, love people, all their own, all on their own, all egoistic. It is an extremely disgusting video. In December 2016, the final investigative report of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the House Select Panel referred Planned Parenthood and Novagenics to the FBI and US Department of Justice for further investigation and criminal prosecution. Yeah, that's just a quote here. Dr. Mary Getter is the Medical Directors Council President of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. The buyer said, so if we can get a liver, a lung, and a brain, yeah, she said, I want a Lamborghini. No. Ye shall be as gods. Yeah, you have to drive as a god, huh? Yeah, so $75 a specimen or $50 a specimen, and she replies that, yeah, 50 is on the low end, 50 was like 12 years ago. Yeah, she's a professional. Life sacrifice on the altar of convenience, then sold to the priesthood of science. Yeah, because that God is a tricky word, because which God we are talking about? Yeah, that says a Jesuit. Because a Jesuit is everything for anybody. Or everything for everybody. Sorry, I'm not a native English speaker.
Oh, this is not your average Jesuit either. You're looking at the Jesuit General of the Society of Jesus in 2021 as we speak. And he says that God is a tricky word. And his friend we wish to trick you with it.
Yeah, and his friend White Pope says that it is very dangerous to have a personal relationship to Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Dangerous for the hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Our mission, Jesuitical propaganda agents, to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world. Yeah. We can change, said Obama. the change of the world. Don't forget that
it's change we can believe in, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget that is not also an accident. It's not an accident, the current situation. It is not an accident. And he's not looking as a very concerned and sorry person.
Well, it's the military order of the Society of Jesus.
Yeah, what do you expect? What do you expect? Yep. Mercy from a mercenary?
No.
Yeah. You see that you have to read their body languages.
Oh, he's happy.
Yes. Yes. We have to take that lesson. If we don't change after this, the next one will be worse. So you don't have to rely on Mr. Gates for the next one coming up. Yeah, you can also take Mr. Arturo Sosa. The next one will be worse. Yeah, friends in spirit.
Yeah.
And accepting the measures and sacrifices that allow us to contribute to the good of all. Oh, that reminds me on Lucy's Trust, the goodwill and the good of all. Yeah, that's why this is not a natural painting. This is a sculpture on this very serpent hall. I like to call it the Vatican's very own Pope Hall audience hall. It's literally a giant snake serpent, both inside and out, with the fangs here, with the teeth, and the eyes and the skin. Yeah, and some kind of very strange nuclear resurrected Jesus. This is not the real picture.
No, that's an image that you would call a like taking a mirror with a computer and making a symmetrical image out of what's there. Yeah. Very interesting, Michael.
Yeah, and you see it here. If you would like to get that picture, that is, I think it's big enough. Oh, where is the picture? There was the picture. There is no picture anymore with Vatican News. Oh, so much alteration. So much alteration. Okay, then we. Okay, you see, this is supposed to be a Jesus resurrected in the atomic war that on the right part of his head looks like a serpent. That's just the image here. Yeah, he speaks from the mouth of the serpent, so to speak. If you would like to just from the mouth of the serpent. This is the podium here. This is the altar, so to speak. He's speaking from the from the mouth of the serpent. Once again, back to our German philosopher called Gunnar Kaiser. He says, but to be a denier of science, science is basically the new God. Then you have said goodbye to modern discourse. Yeah, he says, quite frankly, the technocratic dictatorship. There's also English subtitles available. He says that science is basically the new God. So science is the new religion. That was not my first intention to name that series or this amount of sessions but that came later on. But actually that proves my point, that I'm not the only one who sees it that way. Yeah, so many other people says there's a monstrous background that is now opening up. There will not be 8 billion people in digitization. Craig Venter, who once invented synthetic biology, said the aim is that the creatures we will be constructing that way do what we want. And that is in line with the Kary Mullis, for example, the genetic engineering, genetic manipulation. That's what it's all about, to control the people. So if they have, for example, something implanted in them, they are just being controlled 24/7. Sensors in the sense of implants, which we have already discussed in connection with mind control. Yeah, think about Aldous Huxley, and they will love it, because then they will be protected from people who do not comply. Yeah, people who have no foundation. There will be a foundation, a virtual foundation, a virtual reality created for the people. So if they can manipulate people, and insert things, maybe drugs, etc., etc., and they can be switched on and off. There, people are like robots. And I think that many people will love it. It's so easy. It makes my life so easy. I don't have to think about so many things, so many troubles. Yeah, it's just somebody else who is way smarter than me, the famous scientists, the semi-gods of the 21st century. They will decide what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. Yeah, and so many people are into biochemical warfare, gain of function research. Yeah, look for sequence KRRKR if you are interested in that. That is a hypothesis, of course, because actually there is much debate which is which, but that is very interesting website here, extremely interesting website. This was done as a typical alchemical way. Aha, you see, looking for the fifth element, which is spirit. And then one tries to put the smallest parts back together again. Yeah, to be a creator. What else Satan would want other than worship him as a god? To worship Satan as a god means to see Satan as the creator, as the Almighty One. What was it in Isaiah 14:12? Isaiah 14:12. You know, with the 5 eyes. I will be like the Most High. I will be like the Most High. So to be like the Most High, you must create something. And if you can create something out of nothing, then you create certain virtual world, where then Satan is the ultimate God under certain name, the great architect of the virtual reality. I will be like the Most High. This is the point, the highest point of the pentagram is spirit. People will worship Satan. I will be like the Most High. That's a quote of Lucifer when he fell. Yeah, and that's what sums up our session here. Because I could go on and on in that subject, but I think that you maybe start now a diet, because I don't think that you are that much hungry anymore, because it was a very, very, very tough session to go.
Yeah, or a fast, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, I will ascend above the height of the clouds, like Lucy from the NASA. I will be like the Most High means also to manipulate people into believing that he is the creator of anything. So it's all about a virtual reality, and people are being fooled what is right and what is wrong, what is left and what is right, and what is reality and what is fiction. So there is a thin line between myth and fiction, and I hope I made an interesting remarks in that session, so that you have many sources that you can look upon the fact. And don't forget, the only thing that Satan is interested in is to be worshipped. I will be like the Most High, and that's what he wants to achieve. And the majority will fell for that. In Luke 4, the famous chapter when even Jesus, as the Son of God, was tempted by the devil demanded worship. So that is the counterfight, or this is the opposition of Jesus Christ, who says that love thy neighbor as yourself. Satan says that only love yourself and hate your neighbor. Yeah, and then you see that all the things coming down from George Bernard Shaw with the death panel and all the thing, you have to hate somebody you want to live, and therefore your next one has to die, because the number of people has to be limited, the food is limited, is maybe poisoned, etc., etc. So we are living in a dystopian age right now. We do not have to look for a dystopian future. It is 1984 has passed. It is 2021. Almost 2022. So what else do you need? Science is a religion because people believe in it. People do not prove, people do not research, or many people do not research. Of course, anybody who is listening to the session is not incorporated, but the majority of people do not make any research because they trust any authorities. Yeah, that's a big problem, the trust of authorities. That means there is a certain phrase that means argumentum ad verecundiam. Have to. That's a problem for people believing in science. An argument from authority, also called an appeal to authority or argumentum ad verecundiam, is a form of argument in which the opinion of an authority on a topic is used as evidence to support an argument. Some consider that it is used in a cogent form if all sides of a discussion agree on the reliability of the authority in the given context, and others consider it is always to be a fallacy to cite the views of an authority on a discussed topic as a means of supporting an argument. But this is common practice now. Government tells you that the university of so-and-so or the PhD of so-and-so, and so, yeah, they have their authorities and they have their authority, and who are you to have another opinion as a layman? That's the same argument that the church was coming up centuries ago, because they had the professed ones, they had the priests, they have their scholars, they have their scribes, and then the ordinary man has gotten a copy of the Bible and then saw it from their own eyes how deceived they were. That's the same with science. So this is just a tool of the counter-reformation of the Jesuits, and yeah, I hope that 83 sessions were a good foundation for all the things to come. I think that we shall make more sessions about it, but it will. You will have some time in the future where I have to do any more research, or maybe we can go into actual things, quite recent things that maybe will be very interesting to discuss in the future. So thank you very much for listening to the entire sessions. I hope you have had a good time, although the subject is very extremely evil. I hope you had a good time, and please don't forget to read your Bible, because it comes all down to the fact that everything else is pure deception. It is just the temptation of the devil that people fall for, because he wants to be worshipped with all means. Thank you very much. I'm handing it over to my beloved brother Brett.
Thank you, Michael, so much for taking us onto this journey and, you know, ending up back in the scriptures again, because really this is where it's at. Yeah, Satan does tempt us on a daily basis, and it doesn't mean that we should follow his example, because his example ended up in the destruction of his eternal salvation, and that is sure. And the system of government that we live in today is under the same yoke, and it is headed for destruction. And that is the beast system of the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel, the man of sin, the son of perdition, the little horn of Daniel specifically. It's all been predicted, and these prophecies are coming to the forefront today, and many of the prophecies that we have been told about in church, for instance, in our childhood, have been you know, completely ignored by the elders of this so-called church, and we've been deceived by them, and we no longer have to follow the deception. We can step outside of that by simply, or maybe not so simply, studying on our own. And yeah, it is a rather stark conclusion to come to, but I've come to the same conclusion Michael's come to, that our present situation is not simply just going to go away, because we know the Jesuits are behind all of this. And those Jesuits are not very forgiving and not very friendly when the topic of the Counter-Reformation comes about, because they will fulfill their mission, their Jesuitical mission, to annihilate the heretics, won't they? So we're going to have to suffer through this. It's not going to come easily. And who knows how many more years of this we're going to have to endure. It could be the rest of our lives, for all we know today. And certainly, yeah, I was very perplexed and disturbed by all of the research that we've done in looking at the papacy in the light of the Reformation, in the light of what our Protestant foundations were started, when they were started. It's you know, it's both a biblical and a historical journey that we're on, and you know, I would like to say that it seems to me that this is the last frontier. That you know, eventually each one of us is going to have to come to the conclusion, well, are we going to listen to the Antichrist, or are we going to listen to Christ? Because Christ's voice is very small in the world today, and that would make sense in the Bible when you look at the narrow path and few that find it. There aren't many that find it. Most will stay deceived, sadly. And those of us that claim not to be deceived will be persecuted by those that actually are deceived. And that's the item we're going to have to bear, and we're going to have to take the accusations of this world, whether we like it or not. And Michael and I can both vouch for having to deal with that on a daily basis. It's just part of life. And we're just hoping that the rest of the world will come out of the trance that Satan's got us in. And, you know, what else to say, Michael? It's a very disturbing place, but at the same time, what other option do we have? I think the only option we really have is to take the Bible seriously and be very, very skeptical of those who use religion in a worldly sense for worldly gain, for recognition, and for vainglory. The Bible warns us of vainglory, but that's mainly, you know, how things work when you're a child and you don't know any better. You just see the adults do things, and you mimic the way they do things, and you think you know what you're doing until you have to confront the issue face to face on your own without your parents. And that's what really defines your character as a child. And you know, we're all children of God. And Michael has pointed out before, you know, in some of his own testimony, that God's ways are not man's ways. Our ways are different. So it takes us a long time to learn, what it really means. What sanctification really is. That's something you got to wrestle with on your own, buddy. I can't help you, you know, in terms of really getting down to the nitty-gritty. We all need to study and show ourselves approved in the scripture. And that's, you know, that's something I wish I could impart to all of the listeners, but really, it's God's work. It's not mine. We have to dissociate ourselves with that at some point, because it's God's glory that we are to venerate. It's His glory. He's the one that's going to save us. We're not capable of even saving ourselves. It's just simply recognizing the perfect law of God and actually obeying it. That's the key. That is the key to the whole walk towards salvation. So I wish you would join us next time, and we will continue the journey into, you know, this this vast unknown that we call life. And we certainly know who our Savior is. At least that's my hope, is that we can look at this and be able to focus on our Messiah, which is Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, the Jew. Yes, salvation is of the Jews. And yeah, the tribes of Israel were once, 12 tribes. It's pretty basic, pretty simple. It's not rocket science, like Werner von Braun would have on his gravestone. This, what was it, Michael?
Psalms 19:1.
Thank you. Yeah, Psalms 19:1. That that the heavens declare the glory of God. Yes, they are His work. That's God's work, not ours. Who is man to explain this to the layman? When the layman can actually understand it, all he has to do is read the Bible. It's just that simple. You don't need more further explanation other than your own reproof. And with that, Michael, that sums it up. I think, this is a big topic here. Science is the new religion. And yeah, I think that this is definitely going to lead to something new, and that I can't really tell at this point what that's going to be, but we'll see. And we invite you to join us on the journey next time, and God bless and Maranatha.